Hey guys, Matt from Motors. So today we're going to be repairing a scratch on a bumper. As you can see, it's quite a nasty little scratch. I'm going to show you how you can sand it down. We'll put body filler on it. We'll repaint this section of the bumper and we'll blend it in so everything looks seamless. We're not doing this on a cheap car really. This is quite an expensive car. It's probably valued at about 30,000 euros. But this repair will be perfect and you won't even notice that it was done. Okay, so for this repair you're going to need a couple of cans of paint. This is high build primer. This is the colour of the actual car, and this is 2K clear coat, which will give it a shine. Also, you're going to need a couple of sheets of sandpaper as well, 180 grit and 80 grit, and one sheet of 600 grit sandpaper as well. Okay, so to start this process off, we're going to use our 180 grit sandpaper and a sanding block as well, and we're just going to sand down the area and try and smooth it out as much as we can before we put body fillers on. It's quite important when you're sanding plastic like this not to sand too aggressively or not to use too aggressive grades of sandpaper. If we had used 80 grit sandpaper on this, we would have roughed it up too much. We actually would have destroyed the plastic and made it harder to actually paint over. But by using the 180 grit sandpaper, it smoothed out a lot of the damage. It hasn't actually damaged any more of the paintwork. Okay, so now we're going to mix up some body filler to cover over this. This is the body filler I'm going to be using. In order to mix it up, you just lay out a flat piece of fillers about 1 inch high, and then you spread the hardener from one side of the fillers onto the other. I think the biggest mistake people make when they're doing body work on their car is they put on too much body filler. Less is more with body filler. You can always put more coats on, but I would say start off with a light coat of fillers. I'm just working to the contour of the bumper. I'm trying to get as smooth a finish as I can already. That way there'll be less sanding involved. This is a perfect example of the way fillers should be laid down. It's already super smooth, so we've 90% of the work done now. We're not going to be sanding this all day or anything like that. A lot of people just put on too much body fillers and then it means that they're sanding and sanding when there's no need to actually put on so much. Where I am, it's quite cold, so I would say if it's under 10 degrees where you are, and depending on where you're doing the work, you can use a heat gun just to give the body filler a faster chance of drying. Okay, so the body filler is hard. Normally if you check with your nail, if it doesn't leave a print in the body fillers, it's good to go. I've got my 80 grit sandpaper on the sanding block. I'm just going to try and keep the shape of the bumper as I sand. With the 80 grit sandpaper, I'm making a conscious attempt not to actually sand the raw area of the bumper where there's no body fillers. We only want to sand the body fillers with the 80 grit sandpaper, because if we start sanding outside that area, we will actually put more scratches into the bumper that we will have to remove later on. We got the basic shape there with the 80 grit sandpaper. Now we're going to move on to the 180 to start taking out these scratches and to smooth everything, getting it ready for primer. It's worth taking a little bit of time when you're using the 180 grit just to perfect the fillers and make it look as good as you possibly can, with no humps or hollows or no high spots or low spots. Also on the edge you want to try and feather the edge. Okay, so we got it completely smoothed down with the 180 grit sandpaper. Now it's super smooth, it's ready for primer. We're going to start masking up the bumper now, getting it ready for primer. And this Audi A6 has got a lot of sharp body lines, and spray painters and body guys love these these body lines in it. For instance, there's a small chip in the bottom of this door, and probably if you brought it to a body shop, he would say that he's going to spray the whole door, whereas in fact he would only probably paint it as far as this body line here. So that's what we're going to do in the front bumper. We're going to use the body lines to our advantage, so we don't have to paint a huge area. I'm just going to use a bit of grey Scotch-Brite. I'm just going to roughen up the area around where we're priming, just in case the primer lands a bit further than we need. Okay, so we got it all masked up. Now we're going to be putting on the primer. We're just going to concentrate in this area where the body filler was and the scratches on the outer rim. Again, if you're in colder areas, you could heat this up with a heat gun just to get it nice and warm. I put 3 coats of primer on, and as you can see, after each coat I dried it with the heat gun, but as you can see it looks nice and smooth. Now we'll wait for that to go hard. It'll probably take about half an hour. The primer feels really rough on the edge, which means it's nice and dry. It's ready for sanding with our 800 grit sandpaper. I'm just going to use some water just to help smooth it out. I'm just going to clean it down using some blue paper. It's a good time as well to try and get the water of all of these little cracks. If you have some compressed air, blow it in and blow everything out. At this point, after you've sanded the primer, everything should look really smooth. There shouldn't be any visible damage showing through the primer. It should look nice and dull as well where you've rubbed down with the 800 grit sandpaper. It's a good key for the base coat that's going to be going on top. Also, where the blend is going to be going on the base colour, I've got a bit of tape and I've folded it over just so there's a soft edge where the base coat meets the original paint. Okay, so now it's the colour stage, which is the colour of the actual car. This is what I've had mixed up. It's the code, which normally you can find in the owner's manual, or sometimes it's on a plate underneath the engine bay. If you go to an auto parts store, they'll put it in a can for you, and it's quite cheap. I think this was about maybe €10, maybe $12. Put on 2 coats there now. It looks kind of patchy, but it will after 2 coats, especially with a metallic paint. But we're going to give this a chance to dry for about 5 minutes, and then we're going to put on a 3rd coat. It might even take a 4th coat, especially with metallics. They can be quite transparent. Taking full 4 coats there to get good coverage. It looks really, really nice. The colour is a perfect match as well. Now we're just going to let that dry off for about maybe 10 minutes, and then we're going to put a clear coat on it. We're ready for the clear coat process now. This is the clear coat I'm going to be using. It's a 2K clear, superior gloss finish, scratch resistant, spray gun finish. It has a little activator on the bottom. You pull the actual activator to release the hardener. Once you activate this, you've probably got about maybe 48 hours to use up all this can. So if you've got a few jobs on your car to do, you need to do them within 48 hours. Because this is 2K clear as well, I'd recommend wearing a mask as well. You don't want to get this stuff in your lungs. I'm just going to use what's called a tack rag. This will pick up any little bits of dirt or debris that might be landed on the panel. Especially with the clear, you want to have a pristine panel before you start painting. You can see there was already some little bits of dirt on the panel. Check the shine out on this. And that's all from an aerosol can. I keep telling people you don't need a spray gun to spray your car, especially for small repairs like this. That is as good as a professional finish. It's got a nice deep shine, and it's something you can do at home. It's quite easy. Okay, so we removed all the masking. I just opened the garage door to let more light in. And as you can see, there's the finished result. This is where the damage was down low here. It's all repaired there now. And it's quite an easy repair and you can do it at home. And it didn't cost a lot of money. And thanks for watching.